Welcome to the I Saved You, Now Do the Dishes podcast. I'm author and speaker Carrie Severson. In each episode, I'll share stories and tips from my experience with caregiving and advocacy through my husband's cancer journey. Hi, and welcome back to I Saved You, Now Do the Dishes podcast. Thanks so much. We're coming close to the end of this first season. I hope that you have enjoyed this. I would love to know your thoughts. The purpose of this was to shine a light on caregiving in America, cancer in America, the cracks in both those systems, provide some humor, some healing to the overwhelmed and the heartbroken. And I hope that I've done that. So last episode, I really talked about, it felt like every time we were taking a step forward, we were stepping into a crack. There are a lot in this journey because humans are involved. Everyone, makes mistakes. And we put so much pressure and attention on the negative components of the healthcare system because we're literally dealing with life or death. This episode, I hope you find the humor in it because the only way for me to really get through the rest of his treatment was to laugh because it felt like every step we took, there was something that went wrong. So we're still in the same week of him getting discharged from the hospital against my wishes without pain management. He didn't have liquid oxy. They didn't give us liquid gabapentin. His quality of life had declined so much that the radiologist is like, okay, let's take a break. And you should call oncology and tell him you want to be done. My brother-in-law went to the hospital to pick up his drugs a couple of days later. And they only released one round of fentanyl patches, which meant I had to already put in an order for new ones because he needed his patches changed every 3 days. So it's Friday. I was told by the GI department, he's not technically a client yet. They can't legally talk to us for liability purposes. But gratefully, we have a formula representative kind of supporting us. She sent us things on Amazon to clamp his tube with, body tape it to his body so it stopped spewing everywhere, which was nice. So here we are, Friday. My day starts the same as it had all week. I feed him first. And because he's so high and I have to feed him every 3 hours, that day I made the decision, let's see if he doesn't have to go in for radiation until the afternoon. Let's see if we can get 2 rounds of feedings in before we have to leave for the hospital. So I start feeding him at 5 a.m. Perfect. Fine. Let him sleep through it. I'm on my knees pushing formula through and I make myself some coffee. I let him sleep. I get him up at 7 so that he still has second degree burns on his neck. He still is coughing up mucus and blood and chunks of throat. And he still prefers to do all that in the bathtub and the shower. And he's, it's his humanity. It's his, trying to find some solace, right? It's his peaceful place. He gets the shower all steamed up and the bathroom is like a sauna for him. So he gets out and I'm like, okay, I'm going to feed you one more time. But as I start to feed him, I get a phone call from the hospital letting me know that they accidentally sent his fentanyl patches to a pharmacy on the opposite side of town, 45 minutes away from us. I never gave him the address of that place. I've never used it. Gavin's never used it. Why they sent it there, nobody could answer. but there were fentanyl patches at a Walgreens on the opposite side of town I had to go get. And I'm like, okay, so when do you think I should do that? Because I'm going to feed him, and then I'm going to sedate him, and then I'm going to put him in a wheelchair to give to radiation. So apparently and before I feed him again, like, it was just one more thing to do, which is very, like, that's really what it's like being a caregiver. You're constantly moving, you're constantly evolving. My anxiety, my control mechanism was to try to control this. And by scheduling and sticking to the plan, it felt like I had some sort of say in this, but I really didn't. And God was constantly reminding me of that. And here I am, 8 a.m., this phone call. Sorry, we sent necessary pain management an hour and a half out of your way. All right, so I'm pissed. So I feed Gavin a second time that day without really paying attention to it. And you can't do that. I'm rushing his formula. I'm pushing it through really quickly. I rush water. And he stands up, gets out of bed, and throws up everywhere. Projectile vomits everywhere. Immediately put a call in to this formula representative, and she's like, okay, well, there's two reasons somebody will do that. One, it's the actual formula and their body is no longer accepting it, which is an issue. So I'm going to send you samples of something else to try. Or two, you rushed through feeding him. And I was like, fuck. It's my fault. I felt like shit. I put him in pain. I was being selfish, and I didn't do my job as his caregiver. 100% my fault. So I'm like, okay, well, honey, I won't do that again. I'm so sorry. And Tracy, the representative, she's like, don't feed him for a while. And the next time you do, you have to take a full hour to do it, because now his body may not accept it. Perfect. So we get in the car, and Gavin doesn't want to go right to the hospital. He's like, my stomach is really nauseous. I can't imagine. When he's in the proton radiation machine, they actually tilt him a little bit backwards, so his head is lower than his feet. He's like, I can't imagine that. That's not going to feel good. Let's just go get these drugs first. We'll show up to radiation late. So I feel bad about that. So I call radiation right away, and I let him know what happened. And I'm like, can you push us a couple hours? Give us a few more hours. Let his body rest. And perfect. Yes. Another tip for caregivers, these schedules that we have to keep, we're not the only ones that need to be flexible, right? Shit happens all the time. Having an open communication with the team that is supporting you, chances are they're able to find another appointment slot for you. So we get in the car, we go all the way over to this pharmacy, which is legitimately 45 minutes away from us. And I get Gavin's fentanyl patches, and he's like, let's just change it now. Let's just change it now. Which is really sketchy to do in the parking lot. I got to tell you, I put on like my blue gloves. I take the old patches off, and you're supposed to flush them down the toilet, but I fold them. I put them in the paper towels that we had, and I tuck them into my drawer, that consult or whatever in the middle. I tuck them in there. Slap two new fentanyl patches on him. He's on 75 milligrams of fentanyl. And I'm like, well, since we're doing this and I'm out, let's just sedate you now. Radiation is in 45 minutes. It'll take 30 minutes to get there. And the sedation, the sedative, it was an anti-anxiety. It knocked him out for hours. So it's not like he was going to miss his opportunity to get knocked out. He was out for hours. So there we are in the parking lot of a random Walgreens in a part of town we don't ever go to. And I'm like drawing up anti-anxiety meds, and I push it through his feeding tube, water before and after. And the port pops open, and formula and water end up all over my car floor. And he's like, immediately he feels bad. He's like, I'm so sorry, honey. He he puts the tube back on, the top back on the tube, and he's like holding it. He's all embarrassed, and he's like, I'm so sorry, honey. It won't smell bad for long. I'll fix it. I'll clean it up. And the last thing on my mind is that my car is going to smell like puke and formula. The first thing and the only thing on my mind is, holy crap, is there anti-anxiety meds on my floor? Did you get sedated or not? Because I don't want to do this again. I don't want to sedate him again. I don't want to, I'm not sure how, we're already like doubling the sedation of what was recommended. We were giving him the same amount of sedative that the long-term hospital wing gave him, but the radiologist lowered it by half, which did not work for him. So I'm like, I don't want to do this again. And so he's like, well, in 30 minutes, if I'm not asleep, you've got to drug me again. We're like compromising on drugs in Walgreens parking lot. Gratefully, he's fast asleep 20 minutes later. So get to the hospital parking lot. I'm just hanging out in the parking lot. It's quiet. The sun is beating down on me. I take like a 10-minute nap. Gavin's passed out. I'm in the driver's seat, passed out. Praying for some grace here and some mercy, because I'm so over it. I'm so done. I'm so burnt out. I'm so exhausted. I feel like crap. I'm running, I'm running. In my mind won't ever stop, won't ever shut off. I'm praying this works and that Gavin never goes through anything like this again. I'm grateful it's happening to him and not me, because I don't know if, he would be able to do what's required here. Gavin has ADD, and sometimes the details, skip his mind. And doing what I had to do required so much time, energy, thought. You're thinking of the things that have to happen, the things that are about to happen, the long-term thing too. Like, I'm already thinking about what's rehab supposed to be like? What happens in a couple of weeks when this is done? Anyway, he goes into radiation. I do my thing. I'm practicing all the tools I know, box breathing. I'm tapping emotional frequency technique, tapping around your eye. I'm saying affirmations, even though this is crazy hard and I have no idea what's happening next. I love and accept myself. Even though I'm so angry and frustrated with their system, I love and accept myself. Like, I'm doing the things you're supposed to do to reset your nervous system. And I get a phone call. I still remember her name. Her name was Sarah. She was with the oncology department, and she's calling to schedule me or Gavin for an appointment with an oncology nurse. And I'm like, what for? And she's like, well, your weekly checkup. I'm like, we're in week 7 of this, Sarah. And Gavin's not once met with an oncology nurse. And she's like, you're supposed to have a weekly check-in. And she said it like a question. I'm like, well, you can check his records. He's not once had a meeting with an oncology nurse. And she's like, well, what's your week like. He gets his blood drawn, and then he sits in a cubicle and has drugs pumped into his body. That's what his chemo experience has been like. It's a very unpleasant place. I don't really appreciate it. I don't like it. It's not at all like it's shown in the movies. But yeah, we've not once met with an oncology nurse. I'm not going to start now. I can tell you that. So no, thank you. Declined. Cancel, clear, delete. Do not pass go. I'm like, this isn't happening. And I felt so bad for her. She was like, oh, okay. Okay. I'm like, okay, bye, Sarah. And I hung up. I hung up and I'm like, I feel bad for her. I should go find her, like hug her. Like clearly either she's new at this or, you know, I didn't think I was mean, but I was like, yeah, no, that's not happening. So not long later, I get another phone call and it's Sarah. And I'm like, hey, Sarah, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm just calling to like clarify. And again, you have to laugh at this because I mean, like, otherwise I'd cry. And trust me, I cried a lot. I'm sure you've cried a lot too. But like at this point, it's fucking funny. I'm like, yeah, Sarah, we've not met with an oncology nurse. And she's like, okay, well, I think you guys fell through the cracks because you're supposed to have met with an oncology nurse on a weekly basis. I'm like, yeah, well, I'm not surprised we fell through the cracks because I feel like I stepped on a lot of them. It was like all of them. I stepped on a lot of cracks. Carrying Gavin, pushing Gavin, wheeling Gavin, you know, yelling at Gavin. We stepped on a lot of them. So I think what happened, and I've had it like a long time to think about this. So if you remember in the very beginning, I told you that Gavin and I went up to Sedona, Arizona to put our dog to rest. And he wanted 24 hours without cancer. This was before he even started treatment. It was like early January. And on the way up there, I got a phone call from the radiology department letting me know that they had scheduled all 35 of his fractions, his appointments, and to make sure that they all worked with my schedule. And if I needed to reschedule anything, I should. And I said, okay, well, what about chemo? And there was this long pause. And she was like, well, chemo's going to call you independently. And there was something about the conversation that said, I knew it was wrong. I knew something was wrong. So Gavin's like, I don't want cancer. Turn your phone off. But I couldn't because I knew something was wrong. So he goes outside to play in the creek. I call every phone number I had until I got somebody in the oncology department to basically tell me that Gavin's case had been bumped by like a month because the original oncologist we met with could no longer work with Gavin because of his schedule. And I was like, yeah, that's not happening. You either find somebody to pump drugs into his system or I'm going to take his case elsewhere. And cancer cases are expensive. I mean, like it's a shit ton of money to do this. And threatening to take a case away and give to another hospital is a substantial amount of money. And so I got a phone call a little later. Guess what? We found somebody. So I'm not surprised, fast forward 7 weeks later, that our case fell through the cracks with oncology. He never once met with an oncology nurse. So I remind Sarah, I'm not starting that. There's no way in hell we're this far into this. There's no way he's going to he wants to be done with oncology anyway. I'm not going to introduce, this isn't happening. And I repeated, I was like, if Gavin's oncologist needs to talk to him, we can have a conversation, but he wants to be done with oncology. We're not doing this. So Sarah's like, okay, I'll talk to your doctor. So later that day, Gavin comes out of radiology. He's in a wheelchair next to me and I don't even attempt to feed him. I just don't want to get back in the car yet because that day it was a lot, right? And I felt like I just kept on getting like kicked in the face. Sarah calls one more time to say, okay, I talked to your doctor. He's willing to have a video call with you at 7 a.m. on his day off. or you can actually meet with him at 8 a.m. And the days that we were offered were the following week, Monday or Tuesday. And I'm like, first of all, I find it very ironic. I think I actually said insulting. I'm like, I find it very insulting that he had the nerve to offer me a time, but make sure I knew it was his day off. Fuck that guy. No. I'm like, no, I'm not gonna, cause all I'll be thinking about the entire time is, you want me to feel sorry for you because you're doing this on your day off, or you think I'm going to think better of you? No, this whole thing has been a shit show. No. So we picked the office time, and it was like 8 a.m. on Tuesday. And I kept saying to Sarah, I'm like, he wants to be done with chemotherapy. I'm hoping that this appointment is to close this like case and to talk about his chemo journey, not anything else. And Sarah couldn't say anything about it. She was like, well, all I know is that I did book your appointment for this. And I'm like, all right, Sarah, well, I'm going to go because I don't have anything else nice to say about this experience. So, thanks for calling. I hang up the phone. I look over at Gavin. He's like white, ghost, nasty looking. He's clammy. He's, I'm sure, he hasn't had, he's so high, very little formula that day, actually got into his system. So I'm like, okay, we got to go. So he's in a wheelchair, get him up into the car, get him home, prop him up, pray the formula sticks. I take a full hour to feed him 375 milliliters of formula, a carton and a half. And he doesn't, move. He doesn't wake up for like hours. 3 hours later, I do the same thing. He's not gotten up. He's not awake. I'm like checking to make sure he doesn't have a fever. I Clorox everything that he projectile vomited on earlier that day. It's crazy. Caregiving is nuts. Cancer is nuts. The amount of things that we have to do for our loved one is all consuming. That weekend, my sister and my mom came over to support me, to care for me. They fed me. They hugged me. They watched Gavin. I got to go get my nails and toes done for the first time in, months. And we had, I think, one more full week of treatment left. And I'll talk to you about that next time. I love you. I care for you. If you are a caregiver going through it, please know there are plenty of resources out there, me included. But always remember, it's okay to have somebody else do the dishes.